Welcome to Building a Culture of Innovation. Obviously, we're super tech gurus, as you can tell, getting things off the ground today. But I don't want to take too much time kicking this off since we had a little bit of trouble getting to this point. I'm just going to turn it over for introductions, and we'll start with you, Alex. If you would introduce yourself and share about your role and where you're at today with.
Hi everyone. So I'm Alex Moffat. I work for Walters Group. I'm currently based in Hamilton, Ontario, but we're in Canada and the US. We do structural steel, we do fabrication, design, construction. So from top to bottom, we've been around since the 50s. We're a family-owned company. I've been here for about 10 years since my very first co-op while I was in college. So I've seen a lot of the changes that we've implemented, and I've worked in different departments. So innovation is a huge part of our culture. So I'm really excited to talk about it today. Me specifically, I am a project control specialist. So I focus on all of the project management tools and means and methods and how we manage our projects. So I focus on implementation of new technologies and then supporting our team and onboarding as well. So that's how I met Kahua team, and I'm excited to talk more with them today.
Awesome. And Mary Chris, what about you?
Hi, my name is Mary Chris Hirsch. I'm a senior technology specialist with Procon Consulting, and I'm currently supporting Kahua for the General Systems Administration, which is GSA. I've supported GSA since 2014, so I've been involved with the transition from their old PMIS application to Kahua for over the past 3+ years. So it's been really interesting being a part of that.
Awesome. Well, one of the things that we struggle with when it comes to construction is the idea that there's no room for failure. And when you talk about innovation is all about trying new things. It's getting out in front of the curve, and a lot of times things might go wrong. So the first question that I have for you before we dive deep into a lot of the details here is, in a tough industry that has strict timelines and really tight budgets, and with risk mitigation really the key, how have you built a culture with the willingness to try new things and maybe ultimately fail? And again, Alex, we'll start with you. How do you empower people with the willingness to risk new things?
So I think it really starts from the top. So our founders and our leaders are really focused on innovation. We talk about it a lot. We have yearly town halls and meet and greets with everyone so we can ask questions about what's going on with the company. And we've also started an initiative in 2019 where we created a model to truck team. And what that is we're trying to get the minimal touch points from the model to the truck. So the team is all focused on innovation. So we created a structure for it. And not only that, we then did a campaign internally where we called the model to truck mindset, where we wanted to share with everyone what we were working on, what the focus was throughout the company to start to build that culture more. And we talk about it a lot. And not only that, but then we get to see the real impact of those innovations in the day-to-day. So I think that cycle really builds the culture and gives people the confidence to share ideas and be innovative in their day-to-day jobs.
Awesome. And Mary Chris, what about you?
Yeah, working with Procon, GSA, and Kahua, I think there's a willingness to try new things for sure. There's always risk management in place, things like that. I think we established different ideas and stuff by giving a few different avenues for people to submit those ideas. We have both monthly and biweekly meetings, and Kahua program managers and change management leads. We list issues, concerns, change requests, different suggestions and objectives. So I think we give different ways for people to, if they have an enhancement request or something like that, they can submit a ticket or just let us know. what's going on, if they have issues, to come up with new ideas.
That's so you bring up an interesting point there, and something that I think people tend to struggle with when it comes to having new ideas. Like, do you have a really stringent process that people follow to submit those, or is it just like, hey, there's a suggestion box in the break room, come put a folded piece of paper in it, and we're all gonna decide what's the next big idea? How do you get those ideas out of the team? Is it truly just a process that's baked into the platform?
Well, a couple things we do, and I think our biggest avenue for getting people to submit new ideas is we have a support ticketing system that anyone can really access, whether you're a contractor or a GSA employee. And within that ticketing system, there's a whole area for enhancements. So if a user sees like a better way of doing something, or a better way to change a process or anything like that, they can submit an enhancement ticket. And our process for my team, including GSA with the support, we meet weekly and go over these enhancements, and we say, yeah, this is a good one. Let's get this thing going, or we try to get more information from the user or the person that submitted it, and to ask them like what's going on. Sometimes it's a training issue. They just need some more information on a better way to go about it. But a lot of times it's a really good idea, and GSA is really good about trying to implement that.
So that's an interesting conversation. I'm going to pull on that thread a little bit here in a minute, but before we do that, Alex, any additional ways that you guys have all set up as far as how do we collect these ideas? What do we do? Or is it simply just people come to one another and say, hey, I've got a suggestion?
It's really both. I mean, we have like a QR code that's available on all of our technology surfaces. Like, so we have like iPads in the shop, we have TVs everywhere. So there's always places people can scan a QR code and send an idea, but sometimes it's just a conversation that happens and then that gets taken up. So as I said, we have a structured team that really focuses on that. I think that's what helps us be successful, is take all those ideas, go through them. What do we want to implement? What do we hold off on? And try to make a decision about the best way to make that successful. So as you kind of said, going back to like the worrying about failing, when we have that structured framework, you can really boil down to what are we willing to explore right now? What do we need to wait till later? And yeah, those ideas come from many different places. And yeah, we do find that there's a really good atmosphere here where we are willing to submit those ideas because we feel empowered to do that, and we feel like we'll actually see something from it. And then even on the day-to-day ideas, when we have meetings with different teams, we have departments come together as well to share ideas about what they feel are challenges between different departments.
It's interesting. You mentioned a QR code, which in and of itself is an innovation. Was that someone's idea as well, to post those around and put a form behind it to submit ideas?
Yeah. When we were doing the Model to Truck Mindset campaign, which I was part of, we already had that idea and we were like, we'll put it on all the posters. We put it kind of in lots of different places. I think it was also around the time where everyone had to scan a QR code for getting entrance to places. So there was a cultural shift that kind of happened. And I think that tied into the QR code, because it was like all front of mind. We were always scanning QR codes to get into places. So the cultural shift helped us to really get people on board and willing to do that, which is a different type of tool that wasn't used by us maybe even 5 years ago. It wasn't readily available. It wasn't something common. Sometimes kids would use it, but we didn't really know what that meant, right?
Right. Yeah, that is nice when sometimes culture kind of jumps in and helps you do what you need to do. So both of you mentioned then deciding what to implement or what risk we want to take on or what we have an appetite to go after. So the next question is then, how do you walk through that? Is there scoring criteria? Do you have a committee that reviews. So back to you, Mary Chris, what's kind of that process for weighting ideas against one another, value versus maybe effort?
Yeah, I mean, we really try to keep on top of this. We have different, like we do user surveys, we have program manager scorecards, as well as the Kahua Change Control Board team that specifically meets to discuss issues and score the importance of implementing those solutions. So that's a huge factor. Of course, budget's always a big factor, and that's how they get. And then time, how fast can something be turned around, and things like that. So all those are considered when trying to implement what's going to come first and that sort of thing.
Gotcha. And Alex, is that kind of the same process you use, similar scoring methodology?
I think it's a little bit less rigid in terms of the scale of it. So there's something that could be a massive implementation across the company where we're changing, really innovating in how we're doing things. And so in that case, it would be a unanimous vote by that team to say, this is what we're going to focus on because of this, this, and this, based on, you know, all those factors that Mary mentioned. But then there's also those day-to-day things that change. Things that I look at is, you know, how can we optimize the way that we're doing this process? So departments are also empowered to do small scale innovations and different ways of thinking. So it just depends too, because I think people always think innovation is huge, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be a small idea and say, you know, what's a faster way to get from here to here? And that could be a smaller innovation that could just be implemented by a smaller team. But then, yeah, of course, if it's a huge budget investment and time and there's a lot of risk, there's going to need to be a lot more buy-in and a better plan and a strategy for that to be successful.
So when you talk about budget and risk and buy-in, is there any one of those things that's more difficult than the other to obtain? Like when it comes to implementing a new innovation, do you struggle more getting the budget, or is it people needed to get it figured out? Is it executive buy-in, or is it maybe even adoption? Like, what is the biggest challenge to implementing a new innovation? Alex, we'll start with you.
For me? Okay. So I think the biggest challenge that people underestimate is individual adaptation. So change management is something that I've learned more about since the implementation of Kahua, and really understanding the people, because you know, project management is all about finding a solution to a problem. So, you know, we're having a struggle with something and we need to figure out a better way to do it. But then change management is all about bringing people to the solution. So making sure that you have that buy-in. You can come up with a great plan, you could have all the budget, but if the people don't adopt it, because ultimately it's the day-to-day people that are using it, then it will fail. So I think that's a huge factor. That is something that we do take very seriously, and we really try and think about the people that are going to be using these new innovative tools or methods or ideas, and that's why we try and get that engagement from everyone. But I think if you can tackle that and then have the framework to understand the people that are going to use it, that's huge. Something that we've also done, I think that I don't know if everyone does, is we also kind of have a structure for it. And that's not just having a team to look at it, but we also have like internal IT. And I know that not everyone has that, but having that little team internally to help us work through those issues, so much of our innovation is technology. And I found once we got that internal team on board, it was huge for us, because then we could do troubleshooting a lot faster and really work through those issues. So there's different layers, and it just depends on the size of the company and the size of the change, I think, too.
So real quick, just to follow up on that, and then we'll jump over to Mary and Chris. How big, just ballpark, is that IT team huge, or is that a handful of people that are there to support?
It's a handful. Yeah, it's only a handful of people. Yeah, so you have the day-to-day IT stuff, but we have a couple people that are just really willing to work with us and be innovative. And we have our own proprietary softwares that we've developed, and so they were instrumental in that. And yeah, we just keep growing and building from there. But it's not as big as you would think.
Perfect. So, Mary Chris, from your side, you come from this a little bit differently because you're in more of that consulting role, right? You don't necessarily work for the company that you're helping to guide innovation for, right? You're not maybe a badged employee, if you will. Do you find different challenges helping them implement innovations when you're coming at it from that approach?
Well, to be honest, it's a lot like what Alex was saying. Like adoption is definitely our biggest struggle. I've been, like I said, I've been with GSA since 2014, so I don't really feel like that, but I can understand what your question, what you're asking. But again, adoption is our biggest struggle with users. We have over 4,000 users that use the PMIS application Kahua. And since GSA has so many users, from construction workers on the job site to project and contract managers, coming up with new ideas to increase usage is key. To increase that willingness to get in there and use the application. And we do have a few different teams that meet to discuss struggles within their regions, best practices and plans for implementing new ideas. And like I was saying before, also like budget's a key factor, but staff as well is another issue because we have a small staff for a lot of users, and it's spread kind of thin. So when anytime there's an issue or something that's new, that's a problem, we try to turn it into a solution as quickly as possible.
Where does that desire for change, that desire for innovation start? I mean, you both have been in your respective orgs or working with your respective groups for a little over a decade now. And so maybe this might be hard to think back to, Mary Chris, but when you were developing that culture for innovation, was that kind of a grassroots thing? Was it top down? Like, how did you get that culture to start to materialize?
I think it's a mixture of everybody. You know, it's definitely all over the place, and giving people that ability to submit those enhancements and tell us like that in their mind what's the better way to do things and change things or make innovations within how the processes work. It's been really helpful in developing innovation within all the teams. Turning that around, it lets everyone know that their opinion matters.
Alex, how about you?
I think it's really from the top down for us. But on top of that, once we got that sense that innovation was something that we were all striving for, that leadership was striving for, I really felt this sense of innovation between everybody. So because we talked about adoption of implementation of changes and things like that, if people are not willing to innovate in their own day-to-day work, then that might also fall flat. If it's even just coming from leadership, it could feel too forced. So there's got to be this balance between people willing to be innovative in terms of how they do things and changing how they work, as well as leadership pushing for that as well. And I think we're lucky we have that. And that's one of the things that I've loved about working here is that continuous push and always hearing what people are doing and having that sense of, oh, we could do things this way, and just those conversations, because innovation just starts with an idea, right? It's oh, maybe this would be cool if we did this. And we have lots of those conversations on the day-to-day, right? We all know that it might not happen, but just getting those ideas flowing in just conversations is really inspiring, and then that kind of pushes us more.
So I heard this the other day, and would be curious your thoughts, where innovation was more of just a buzzword, like it's up on the wall, leadership talks about it, but it's really just there to make us look like we're forward thinking. If someone on this webinar listening in is thinking that to themselves right now, what would be one suggestion you would have for them that maybe they could be the first spark that turns it into more of a culture? Alex, I'll direct
For
that at
me?
you
Okay.
again first. Yeah.
Okay. I think the reason that it becomes a buzzword is because people don't feel like they see the action. That's the biggest thing I think it is, right? I just hear it a lot, but I don't see it. So start small. It doesn't have to be a huge innovation, but I feel like if you can do an innovation that's small, even just for yourself, and show, hey, I did this, and now we can get from A to B in this way. A very small innovation could be just in how you do something to prove a concept. That's a proof of an innovation, and then that will spark more, right? I think it's hearing innovation a lot and seeing all these cool ideas are great, but really where you get the benefit is if it actually comes to life.
Right. I love that. Just even something small. Mary Chris,
Yeah,
what
I
about
agree.
you?
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, I consider innovation to being like creative and make something real, which is hopefully a positive change and valuable to your organization. And then I think something that's kind of scary about it, it could be risky, it could be costly. But if you start small, like Alex was saying, it's easier to kind of see that outcome and get into it. And it can create fear and anxiety, which makes it kind of exciting when it's successful.
So let's take a step back here then, and real quick, and if you need to like change the scenario to protect the innocent, all those things, feel free. But maybe, do you have an example, Mary Chris, of an innovation that went wrong? Like, a lot of people are saying, yeah, that's great, but do you have an example of one that went wrong and maybe how you handled it and what you learned from it?
Yeah. So when we were first bringing Kahua in from the old PMIS application, the support ticket system that GSA was using at the time, we realized wasn't going to work. It was failing. Contractors were not able to submit tickets and route. We weren't able to route it to internal regional support. It was unreliable. So one thing we got together as a team. Our first avenue was to kind of see if the existing system and the developers can make changes within our application to meet GSA, the Kahua support needs that had changed. We had a lot of ideas, a lot of things we wanted to try. And after meeting with them, it turned out it was very costly. It was time consuming, and the proposed end product just fell short of what we needed. So we had to kind of change everything, and it, to get people to come in and react and help us out was kind of a challenge. But we ended up working with another team to develop our own ticketing system that has performed well for our support team as well as GSA. And in doing so, we were able to provide better user support. We established ways for users to submit those enhancements I talked about earlier, able to track metrics and create a knowledge base. So it's been successful, and I think it actually turned out better than if we were able to make those changes with the old application.
So that right there, I think, is an important point to drive home. We tried one, it didn't work. We pivoted, turned out better. Right? It's kind of that old try, fail, adjust mantra, right?
That's right.
That's awesome. Alex, do you have an example of one that maybe went sideways and you all had to handle the situation and adjust?
Yeah, so we're talking about, again, model to truck. So that's always been our big thing is, minimal touch points. So one thing we were spending a lot of time on was editing drawings. So we have a model software that we use, and we found that it had an auto edit feature. And we had been kind of using it, but it wasn't to its full potential. So we really dove into that, and we wanted to really get these drawings to come out already edited so that you don't have to really touch them at all. So we went hard and just used that. And then we kind of saw the negatives of that really quickly. We were having a lot of issues with the shop. They were not getting the information that they needed on the drawings. And so that was a failure. It did not work. And we lost time and money because we were going back and having to make changes and then doing things. We did save some time in the beginning, but I think that did not outweigh the costs in the end in terms of having to go back and, fix some things that had to be done twice. Since then, we've tried to find balanced approaches, so maybe partial editing, and we're still working through it today just to figure out the best way to kind of have the best of both worlds. So that was just a real example where we tried something, we went really hard into it, we did our best to make it as successful as we could, but in the end, it didn't work, and we had to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out how we can make this a better for everyone.
And how did leadership receive that message? Like, hey, we tried this, it's not working out, we're gonna have to circle back and try something different. Was that a difficult message to deliver, Alex?
No, I think because you could just see it in how the frustration from the fabrication team. Like, fabrication was frustrated because they were having trouble getting their information that they needed. And, leadership supports each department, and we understand that there's gives and takes, but in that case, it was very apparent that it was a waste of time in a way for them to have to go back and ask for more information that should have been there in the first place. So I think the leadership really understood that. That also makes me think of something else, whereas one innovation can lead to another. So as we did this, we ended up coming up with a new shop call ticket, because we literally used to have people calling all the time, picking up the phone saying, hey, what's this dimension? When I was in the drawing office, I would get that call a lot. Somebody from the shop says, hey, you're missing this dimension, or I don't know what this weld is. And so then we just made it more of an automated system where there was a ticket, you would put in a ticket, I need this information, and that would go right to the detailer quicker. And then not only that, but then we had a log. So then you had real data to say, look, this is what's happening. And all of that really tied into, oh, there's a problem. We need to address this in a more global approach. Like, we can't just fix each drawing. We have to change our method of how we're doing this.
That's an excellent point, where one change leads to, oh, look at these other things we found. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just a quick reminder to everyone who's listening in, on the right-hand side, there's a little question chat bubble where you can post your own questions to our panel. So if you have any, feel free to throw those in, and we'll make sure to get those asked. But in the meantime, we talked about things that went wrong. Let's switch it around. Let's talk about innovations that have been successful, or at least that you can share, that aren't proprietary to what you're doing. Alex, do you have an innovation example that was a big success?
Yeah, so going back to our shop, that's a big spot where we wanted to be innovative. We used to have hard copies of drawings. So when I was on my co-op, I used to fold drawings, big bed sheet size drawings, and hand them out to the site, or sorry, to the shops, and also to site. But speaking specifically about the shop, then if we had, let's say, a drawing revision, we would have to make a change to the drawing. We would have to find the paper copy, bring it to the shop, find the worker, find the piece. Everything was very manual. We implemented iPads. That was super successful, but it took us 2 years. And the reason that it was as successful is we went to the people that we thought were going to be our biggest hurdle, and we made them our promoters. We showed them, look how easy it is to see the drawings. You can get the revisions right away. You can send in a shop call request right away. You can really figure out what you need to know right there on the iPad really quickly. And once we got those people to buy in, then they were promoting it to everybody else. So we do, lose a couple iPads every year, but overall, I think it's been a huge success.
Awesome. Mary Chris, what about you?
One initial challenge that our support team faced when GSA decommissioned their old PMIS and implemented Kahua was onboarding. The issue was how to get all the required information from a user, an account request, verify the information, and send it to the correct GSA manager for approval. As you can imagine, GSA has specific policy requirements, account requests, approvals, security permissions, access classifications. Working with our team at Kahua, we decided to implement Smartsheet for Government to address our onboarding issues. I was given the task to create a new onboarding process using Smartsheets for that GSA would work for them. Sorry, my dog's barking.
That's all right. New star of the show.
All right. Yeah, I needed it to meet all of GSA security requirements, be accessible to both government and contract users, coordinate with GSA Kahua program managers in all the regions to meet their needs, and then it also needed to, I was able to bring Kahua data in for reporting and updates. I had never worked with Smartsheets before, so there was a big learning curve for me. I had to create and recreate a lot of functionality and processes to make the updates depending on like the required changes. I'm constantly learning and improving how the process works, so I feel pretty invested. And most importantly, it seems to work for GSA.
And at the end of the day, that's the key, right? It's got to work for the customer,
Yeah.
the people involved. That's the whole point.
It was wasn't costly at all.
And there you go. So we're coming up on kind of our end of time. I want to be respectful of both of your calendars, and again apologize for some of the technical difficulties we had early on. But as we wrap up here, one of the things Kahua has coming up, Enabling Innovation. It's a users conference that we host every October that folks could attend and maybe take away a couple of tidbits like they did today. And my understanding is that you both have been in the past. And so real quick to take us home, what is one thing that you learned at Enabling Innovation last year that you were able to take back to your respective organizations and maybe use that to continue to foster this culture of innovation? And Mary Chris, we'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah, it was a great conference. Hearing from other clients about their use cases was very insightful and interesting. All the speakers are great. I was impressed with the sense of community and collaboration, and I really appreciated the ability to kind of go into those smaller networking sessions and talk to Kahua and your other clients. The thing I was most excited to hear about and take back to my team was about the data analytics and the adoption of advanced analytics. This is something that GSA has not been able to fully apply yet. And with over 20,000 projects and 4,000 users, you can see how it'd be beneficial and in high demand for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Alex, what about you?
So being new to Kahua, we were coming off of spreadsheets. So we've used some different softwares before, but it was really different exercise to understand how we could get Kahua to fit our needs and vice versa. So seeing other people's use cases, as Mary said, was huge for me. I got to really understand how people were using the software in different ways than I had seen before. So I got to take ideas from how somebody else was running a report or setting up their app to see something that could work better for us. And that was really huge for me. So that was the best part. And also networking and meeting everybody was great too.
Right, yeah, learning from others' mistakes, if you will, or successes is always helpful. Then you don't make them yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
Try not to.
Yeah, you try not to repeat it. Yeah. Well, thank you both for your time today and for bearing with us through the struggles as we got going live here. We appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week. And we look forward to seeing you again here soon.